Hello, everybody. Welcome. Uzi, how are you?
Doing pretty well. The Mets won yesterday, and it's very relevant to the Tesla community.
All right, good. Hustle Town, how are you?
Doing pretty good, pretty good. Just excited. I just got through watching the AI space. I recommend everybody do that. AI Amateurs is awesome.
Yeah, AI Amateurs last night did great. We are very close to our 100 like goal for that episode. It's now has 400 views, so it's growing. We need to get those views up to a couple thousand, and now we're going to focus on getting those likes up on AI Amateurs. At this time, it's not really a standalone. It can't really stand alone on its own. So I may have to mix a bit more Tesla stuff in there in temporarily. We have a lot of likes on YouTube. We have 24 likes as a starter right now, and our live viewers over there are pretty high too. We're growing on YouTube. Tesla Live episode 200 was the first episode to ever get to 2,000 likes, and 2,000 views on YouTube and 600 likes. So that's 60% of the way to our 1,000 like per episode goal that we have to get this Tesla Live financially sustainable on a very sustainable basis. Super chats help, but I can't bank on super chats to get this. I can't bank on super chats to get this space to financial. They obviously help in the near term, no question about it. Like episode 200, I think was contribution margin positive for sure. So that's a lot of Drew Soul, for example, helped a lot with episode 199 and 200. And Drew Soul asks, how was your engagement metrics on episode 200 compared to previous episodes, only going back 3? Episode 199 was really high. I think this week we're going to find out whether last week's success was due to the 1010 event or more of a sustainable. I'm guessing it's more of a kind of combination of both, but I have a lot of ideas to keep going. Drew, thank you very much for gifting. Oh, shoot. Hold on. How is the audio on YouTube?
That's a little crackly. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's noticeable.
All right. I'm going to handle that right now. In the meantime, please take a moment to go up to the top of our screens and like. All right. Now, how is the audio? Please, anybody on YouTube, let me know how the audio is. Hustle Town, good? Okay, thank you. All right. All right. All right, let's get going. Let's get going. Come on. Omar, how are you?
Hey, doing great.
Good. I see we have Nick on the board. Nick, how are you?
Doing good. How's it going, Yaman?
Good, good. Omar, let's talk FSD 13. FSD 13 was running, as we discussed in our video on YouTube, running on the Cybercabs, right? Was it also running on Model Ys?
Yes.
Okay. I think FSD 13 is going to be feature complete with Banish and Reverse. What do you think?
That's correct. FSD 13 can do everything an autonomous car needs to do in terms of reversing, parking, all of that stuff. It just will sometimes mess up still and require supervision, but they're driving down the number of mistakes rapidly, as everyone can see. So FSD 13, huge milestone. That's what we saw running on the cars. I mean, already on FSD 12.5.6, I'm just blown away. I posted a drive yesterday where my car went from the airport back to home, curb to curb without an intervention. And, LAX is kind of a disaster. End to end on the highways. I mean, the way it merged onto the freeway, it was like, like nothing I've ever seen before from autopilot. So the current version's very impressive. FSD 13 takes it to the next level. I think we still don't have a lot of details on why does this deserve the number 13 rather than, 12.7 or something like that. But from what I hear, it is actually on schedule to release at least to early access customers by the end of the month.
Okay, early access customers on schedule to receive FSD 13 by the end of the month. And I'm guessing, Omar, I don't know if you agree, I'm guessing the wide release is going to take a few months. It's probably a major upgrade. They're probably going to be very careful releasing it with several layers, many layers of safety measures baked into the process of rolling it out. And if all goes well, hopefully by early next year, it should go to most of Tesla's eligible Teslas. Would you agree with that, Omar?
Yeah, it's hard to know for sure without, I haven't tried FSD 13, but with past versions, it has sometimes taken several months to go wide. Certainly, you can look at the rollout of V12. It took several months between the time when I think I got it in January and it went wide in March. So that would be a safe assumption, I think. We can always hope for it to be faster than that in going wide. Maybe if it looks really good, it could, but I think that's a safe base assumption.
Thank you. Reggie.
One question: will they have to announce that the car FSD can now read all traffic signs prior to either 13 or version 14?
I'm not sure if there's any progress on traffic signs, but we have heard technical talks from Waymo where they said LLMs and multimodal LLMs, vision language models, have really been the key, the last missing piece for self-driving. And I think we're going to see that with FSD too. You need to incorporate some of this sort of LLM type functionality, or at least use an LLM to help generate a lot of training data to, I think, get to the final mile there where you're doing things like reading street signs. I mean, just the other day I was driving through Los Angeles and I saw a sign that said no U-turns except for Saturdays and Sundays. So I was just thinking, to know what is okay to do and what's not to do, the car needs to know, first of all, what days are. It needs to know what day it is. And it needs to be able to read the sign, understand the no U-turn symbol, and relate that to what day it is. So this is all quite complex for a vision system. Like a primitive vision system that's just sort of processing visual inputs might not be able to decipher this. You really need a next level of intelligence, kind of like an LLM, to be able to decode something like that.
Uzi.
I was curious if Omar had any thoughts on if V14 will be unsupervised in Cali and Texas, or 15.
I don't know. Whatever the version number is at the time, I suppose, going unsupervised would probably be worth a version number bump. But really, what this is going to look like is just that the cabin camera will start to go away. And it'll start to go away and go away in certain areas, certain states, maybe, or maybe even certain cities if they want to get more granular than that. But eventually, there just won't be any cabin camera for any car nationwide. And they announced California and Texas as the first two markets they're going to start with next year, hopefully.
Okay, great. With Nick on the board, who also attended the Robotaxi event, We Robot event, and Omar also on the board. Nick, let me just ask you, what was the speed limit on Cybercab and the Model Ys, autonomous Model Ys? What was the highest speed that you saw?
Yeah, well, with that, it's all interpretation, like your own interpretation, because it didn't have any sort of speed limit on the screen. The screen was really only you could open the door or switch different media, games and or videos. But from my interpretation, it was anywhere from 5 to 8 miles per hour.
Okay, great. Omar, do you agree with that? Is that how that feels for you too?
Yeah, it wasn't the fastest thing in the world, but there were people walking around and stuff, so it didn't feel overly slow. I was more looking at the vehicle itself rather than the speed it was driving. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure there was even a speedometer inside the car.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what Nick said as well, that you couldn't see the speed, but felt like 5 to 8 miles per hour. If anybody has information, you're welcome to request to speak. Omar, Tesla, there were some headlines before the event that Tesla was mapping, and I think, what's his face, the hacker account on X, Green Only, said that Tesla has been collecting some mapping data in that area, the studio area. So how is that different from HD mapping that Waymo and Cruise use? Can you explain that to us, please?
Yeah, they weren't actually collecting map data. They were just collecting driving footage. So they said, hey, if there's any Teslas that are driving around this area, right? You know, the studio executives have Teslas. They said, well, just send us any footage that you guys have of the area so we can start to validate it, check it out. What Waymo and Cruise and others do is they actually take a LiDAR sensor and they drive through an area and they do a scan of the area. This gives them a very precise, to call this a map is a huge euphemism. This is not a map with, here's Apple Street and, it connects to Oak Street over here. Those are very simple and they're readily available. There's maps available for, any major city anywhere in the world. But there are not HD maps or LiDAR pre-scans available. You need to go scan with your same hardware and go scan the entire city. Now you know exactly how many lanes there are. You know exactly where the curb is. You know a lot of stuff just from scanning the city and attaching metadata. And then when you drive through the car, you use your LiDAR and you scan the city again. And you're able to compare the two LiDAR scans. So the car goes, okay, this tree is over here. In the map, it's over here. Now I know exactly where I am with centimeter level accuracy. GPS is not that accurate. It can be subject to interference. This LiDAR based localization allows them to know exactly where they are precisely on this map. So, for example, you hear about issues where, FSD scraped against a curb. That might be because FSD thought the curb was a little further away than it was. It is inferencing this all in real time and trying to figure out how everything is on its own. It's using its own intelligence to do that, just like a human does. But with Waymo, that's never going to happen because they already know exactly where the curb is and where they are down to a centimeter level accuracy. So it kind of looks good, but the car is actually lacking the intelligence to figure these things out by itself. And the reason why it's not getting the answers wrong is because it has the answers, right? Someone gave it the answers. So this can be a really good way to get to driverless, but really what you want ultimately is a car that has the intelligence to look at the scene, understand it perfectly, and drive through it without making any mistakes. So there was no HD mapping for the cars here. What we saw was a demo of a pure vision Robotaxi. And it's significant because this could be a car you could actually sell for 30,000. Waymo can't sell a car for 30,000 not just because you have obviously all the hardware on the car that make it a six-figure car, but because of the need to map, update the map, and really control what areas it's deployed in.
Okay, thank you. Now, this is a very hot topic. Tesla versus FSD interview I did with Omar is the best video on the channel by a wide margin. I highly recommend people watch it. I think the lessons learned out of that conversation is going to pay dividends for a while. So it's something to really learn. The 5 minutes that Omar just spent explaining the difference between what Tesla did at the studio on 1010 versus what Waymo does is very important takeaway. And it's, outside this space, outside the tight Tesla community, most people don't know the difference. People think Waymo is leading. Even on CNBC or Bloomberg, analysts think Waymo is leading the race, and that's obviously not correct. Now, on a related note, however, Omar, there's some news from China that Baidu is bringing a car for $20,000 with a swappable LFP pack, 4-seater, available right now, but 40 sensors, including 5 LiDARs. Now, my question to you is, how is Baidu pricing a car around $20,000 with 40 sensors and 5 LiDARs in there?
Well, either they're very cheap, low resolution LiDAR, or they're just losing money. And I would probably, bet on the latter. I think generally claims that these Chinese companies have solved self-driving, as I investigate them, are often exaggerated. You try and talk to some of these people who use the service, ask them their experiences, and it's going to be a different account than what you hear in the media. In China, they don't have the same journalistic culture where someone can, sort of go out and say, hey, this is the issue. This is what I saw. This is where it could improve. So I think people are, clouded by that a little bit. From what I can see, Waymo seems to be more advanced than Baidu. But, I could be wrong. There could be other information I don't know. But that's my perception based on just listening to people who've used Baidu's service, used these cars, and also used Waymo vehicles.
Very good, thank you. And if we have anyone in the audience who has used Baidu's service, please request to speak and share your opinion with the rest of us. I always welcome new speakers. We need fresh voices. The other day, we hit 3 dozen speakers in one episode, which is amazing. Let's see if we can get to 4 dozen, 5 dozen, and really share a wealth of information with everyone who listens to this space. I'm going to read our audio ads. It's very important to hit the like button on YouTube at the beginning. Okay, so in the first few minutes, it really makes a huge difference. So if you're enjoying this conversation, finding value in this space on X, please head over to the YouTube link through the top of your screens and hit that like button and subscribe. Growing this channel lets us keep bringing you Tesla insights every day. Please do that in the next 30 seconds while I read these audio ads. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Paymore, your trusted destination for buying, selling, trading, and recycling electronics. Looking to upgrade your tech, like I am, by the way? Want to turn your old devices into cash? With over 100 stores nationwide, Paymore makes it easy and secure. At Paymore, you can buy the latest gadgets at great prices, sell or trade your used electronics for cash or store credit, recycle your old or broken devices responsibly, helping you reduce electronic waste. Paymore is a great sponsor. I just want to say one word. Paymore is a great sponsor of the space. And I'm going to try to sell my M1 chip laptop and see if I can upgrade to M2. Maybe throw in a couple of these microphones I tried and didn't use it, and see if I can get cash for those too. And I'll report back how that process goes. And our second sponsor, Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. At Joa, you'll find innovative charging solutions, stylish interior upgrades, protective gear, and cutting-edge tech add-ons. Use promo code TSLA Live at checkout to receive a special discount on your next purchase. Thank you, Paymore and Joa, for supporting Tesla Live and the Tesla community. All right, let's see what the like count is. Let's see if we got to 100. Very good. We're very close. 97 likes. So if 3 more people can do it, would appreciate it. That's not bad for first 20 minutes. Let's go to Sean. I see we have some new speakers on the board. Sean, go ahead.
Thank you, Yami. I just wanted to say that
Yami. Did you just call me
Yaman?
Yami?
Sorry, Yaman. There's another guy from Austin. He does like motorcycle content. His name is like Yami. So apologies. But anyway, the sponsors that allowed this space to happen, but also provide valuable products to Tesla customers and other customers. I think this is crucial to be able to allow these type of things, and they are the ones that help support these communities and let these discussions happen. And then something to say to Omar's point, something that I can speak on, very knowledgeable on, as I'm sure he could agree. I would like to just say that, in my opinion, Tesla is far more ahead than most people understand and realize. And it's just a process of validation, making sure that things are done right and getting right to not have issues that might cause further delays in the future.
Nick.
Hey, Yaman, a little off topic. I just remembered. Did Omar, did you ever do that Cybertruck in the oil field with the oil guy?
No, we need to do that soon. Now
I
the
think
Cybertruck has FSD, so but I have to get it fixed on the 22nd because my mom backed into it. So they said that could take a few weeks, but after that, cross-country road trip.
Yeah, he hasn't been here for a while, and oil prices is on the docket for today. They plunged quite a bit. We can maybe discuss that later on if we get around to it. Samir Shah, go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks, Yaman, for hosting this. My question is for Omar. First of all, thanks for explaining the fundamental difference between FSD and Waymo. The question is kind of a step deeper into it. You explained that the lidar maps the local environment at a pretty detailed level. So let's say, for example, on one particular day, there's a construction worker holding a sign which is not pre-mapped through LiDAR. What happens locally at the car level when it sees this new sign which has not been pre-mapped?
Great question. So, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, everything has to be on the map. It can't respond to dynamic stuff." Obviously, that's not true. I mean, we're talking about Google here, right? They've got great AI people. The car has systems just like Tesla that can respond to things dynamically. If it did see construction pop up, it would probably be able to navigate it fine, go around the construction, that type of thing. And then what they do is they actually update the map. So you can have temporary things on the map. And by the way, Tesla is actually doing this now too, where cars are communicating things like construction. And they'll send up to the map and say, hey, there's construction right now. And then all the other cars just simply won't go that way. So this is also part of how they deliver an intervention-free experience every time. If the construction was really difficult, they might have to require a remote intervention, but they can even avoid those remote interventions. They just say, okay, don't go this way. And when you take a Waymo and you take a Tesla, you'll notice that the Tesla always gets there faster because the Waymo doesn't take just the fastest route. It takes the fastest route with a high likelihood of getting to the destination. If they know that school gets out at 3 o'clock on this street every day, on every weekday, and it causes a commotion every time, it increases the chances of an intervention. They can tell the cars not to go there, right? The passenger just gives the destination and they get to pick the route. So in order to achieve autonomy, all you need to achieve really is one route from the start to the finish. Of course, people do get annoyed when you take longer routes, so it has to be still reasonable and close to the same time frame.
Samir, Omar labeled your question as a great question. Therefore, you're now allowed 15 words to ask your questions going forward. Congratulations.
Thank you for the honor. Thank you, Omar.
You will get a badge in the mail that you have to wear every day out and about. Okay. All right. Thank you, Omar, and thank you, Samir. Fleet Profits, go ahead. Fleet Profit.
Hey, I don't know how I got up on the speaker board, but I do actually have a question. It's a little off topic. Is there any likelihood that revealing the Robotaxis sets up kind of a covert supply chain to bring in Model 2 type vehicles? I know a lot of talk about all this being far flung into the future and not wanting to create an Osborne effect. It's just something that's on my mind.
Well, first off, there's no Model 2. It's not going to be called the Model 2. But it's no secret that, so first off, let's just think about the fact that there were 20 of them at the event, 20 working cybercabs at the event. Have we ever seen that before? When they unveiled the Model 3, did they say, here's 20 working Model 3s and you can go take a ride? No, they had 2 or 3 prototypes that didn't work. Okay. So this is immediately a subtle little thing that should make you say, how did they get 20 of these things? And the answer that people heard verbally from Tesla employees on site is that many components of the next gen platform are already in production now, and they're ramping up. People seem to have forgotten that in Tesla's earnings deck, they said, look, this next gen unboxed process for the Cybercab is not going to be in production until 2026, maybe not volume until 2027. But we're taking a lot of elements of that platform, the new motors that don't have rare earths, the new battery pack architecture, the new 48-volt wiring, the new steer-by-wire, and we're bringing that all to a vehicle next year in the first half of 2025 that's going to be built on the Model 3 and Y line in multiple locations. So absolutely, they are working on a more affordable car that's smaller than the 3 and Y that is going to be built on the same next-gen platform the Cybercab uses. It won't be using the full unbox process. It'll be using a more traditional manufacturing process on existing production lines. But they've guided that they believe that these new vehicles can get them from about 1.8 million vehicles a year today to about 3 million units a year. So this
Omar,
is, yeah,
you finish your thought. This is what?
this is like a big, it's a big open secret, right? People are acting like this isn't happening because they're used to Tesla unveiling vehicles years ahead of time. But just go look at their last earnings deck. It says it right there on the product page that
Yeah.
they're working on these new vehicles.
You said smaller than Model 3 and Y. I thought it was only smaller than Model Y. Is it smaller than Model 3?
I think it is, yeah.
Okay. So is this more kind of like a BMW X1 type size?
It's going to be about the size of the Cybercab, from what I understand.
Okay. And Drew Soul says in the YouTube live chat, hypothetically, if the Cybercab is a hint of the upcoming compact, if Tesla released a compact with 2 seats only, would consumers buy it? It wouldn't Osborne the Model 3. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, people will still want to buy a Model 3 and Y because they're bigger, they're better cars, and really they're not that expensive. You want to avoid making it too much like a 3 and Y. So having it be smaller, having it be maybe only a 2-seater, or maybe it's only a 2-door, you have to kind of pull back the seats and you can get some people in there or something like that. That could differentiate enough that people are still buying 3 and Y, which is going to be crucial for the business as they ramp that up.
Thank you. Uzi?
Yeah, Omar killed it as usual. Oh, sorry, Omar killed it. I think next year, 2025, they'll unveil the 25K compact. My man on the street, Dan Ives, believes what we saw at Robot was unveiling for the future. Seeing the Cybercab was impressive, and I think at the very least, like Omar said, they've been very open about the compact coming out. It's really just We Robot was about autonomy, not traditional car manufacturing.
Thank you. Drew Soul says on YouTube live chat, look at me. I asked something smart. This means I get to ask 20-word questions, but this is false. This is misinformation. Omar, I don't think labeled it as a great question. Omar, did you say great question for Drew's? I don't think you did.
The one about the construction?
No, that was Samir's question, I think. This one was about the Cybercab Model 2. So Yeah, he didn't say.
Well, I
Great
hate when
question,
people
Drew.
say Model 2.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Drew. Now you got down to. Oh, actually, never mind. He didn't say Model 2. Okay, he didn't say Model 2. Scratch that. By the way, just because Drew gifted people 100 free memberships doesn't mean you get to ask more than 10 questions. Okay. I mean, 10 words. All right. Omar has labeled a great question. Paul Ryan.
You know, I was thinking that the Cybercab could be also the platform for the next model, that they're using that in order to test it vigorously on self-driving, because ultimately we want self-driving. So if you can make a platform like, say, the Cybercab and test the software out completely, then we release the model, what are we going to call it, Model 2, a smaller version, you'll have it fully tested already, and no one ever saw it coming.
Thank you. Fleet Profit.
Yeah, first apologies for using, the M2 word. Was the next gen was what I meant to say, but I think that point was exactly where I was going. This notion that 20 cybercabs were ready, no one really expected it. When the next vehicle is unveiled, will they have a working line going? And it will be, you can buy these in a few months as opposed to further on down the road, because they will have something built in advance under the guise of Robotaxi. Not to say the Robotaxi isn't being built too, but anyway, that's my point.
Go watch Tesla's Investor Day presentation from a while back. They went into detail about this new next-gen platform they're creating, all the different components of it. And they're doing the Cybercab with the unboxed process, but they're also taking all the pieces of that, the 48-volt, the steer-by-wire, the new motors, the battery pack, all that good stuff that they talked about at that event. And they're also bringing it to another vehicle that's going to be produced on the Model 3 and Y line. So a lot of similar pieces, but made on the Model 3 and Y line instead of using this new unboxed process. And you guys ever wonder what happened to that second Model Y line in Austin that was making 4680 Model Y? We haven't really heard about anything happening with that line. I wonder. And other factories as well. I think Shanghai, Berlin potentially could get this line as well. It's very unusual for Tesla to be so quiet about a new product that they're developing, especially one that's kind of the next step after the Model 3. But if you think about this thing getting to, around a $30,000 price point, I mean, let's say even, $35,000, assuming the tax credit still exists, that brings it under $30,000, even to a $25,000 starting price. And then imagine what these things are going to be on the used market. So it significantly brings down the entry price. And what I think is also exciting about that is you can potentially position the Model 3 and Y a little bit higher in pricing if you have an entry level model that's able to handle those entry level customers.
All right. Omar mentioned a good point. He said, go watch the Investor Day. What I've found in the past is that every time I watch Tesla events, which are like 2-3 hours long, I learn something new. I learned something I missed before. I learned something about a topic I wasn't really strong on when I was first watching it to pick it up. So what I'm going to do on the YouTube live is on the YouTube channel is we're going to have watch parties for Tesla events. Maybe once a week, once every other week. Hustletown is a big fan of this idea. And I think Uzi might join as well. So we're going to play, and we don't have to finish a 2-3 hour event at once. We can do like a series. We can do like Friday nights or something like that, and watch 1 hour, pause it at times, discussing among ourselves, and maybe combine it with the new information that came out since that event, and then build this technical knowledge on the speaker board or people who join the watch party, which will reflect well on discussions in daily Tesla live spaces too. So I think this is going to be a series on the YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel through the link at the top of your screen. Drew Soul says, watch party Wednesdays. Yeah, We can do yeah, exactly. I think that's a great idea. Probably weekday is better because weekend plans usually change with people. Anyway, I'll figure this out in the speaker DMs. All right, Spiros.
Hi guys. Do you want me to give a bit of context around China, or do you want to move to other topics?
Please give context.
All right. So I've worked with people that have been in China, have done business, and I've heard from them, all the same narrative. So the story pretty much in China is that there is the Communist Party, right? And the Communist Party is there for years, and it's going to be there for years to come. When we compare to the Western world, we have elections every 4 or 5 years. So all the politicians and everything is pretty much designed, for everybody to prove what can they do during the term. China is not like that. China, they plan for 50, 100 years ahead because nothing is going to change there, right, with the party. So every major company or big company belongs, let's say, or has very strong connections to the party. So if you have a BYD, if you have Baidu, all these companies, they are controlled by the party. They have people from the Communist Party that is part of, the board, and they know exactly what's going on. And when you're talking about scale, you're talking about efficiency, talking about go-to-market times. You don't have all that, right? Because they say we have a target. For example, I'm just going to exaggerate maybe here, to beat Tesla or grow bigger than Tesla and do whatever they do. Within 5 years, they have the resources. They don't have all the legislation like we have, and we say, oh, we need to get approvals, for example, for FSD in Europe, or now for unsupervised for every state. They don't have all that. They just go in and they say, we're going to do it. The party automatically will approve any legislation that needs to be in place. So the scale that they're moving, or they can actually move, or let's say the agility that they can move, it's much more faster than we have in the Western world. And
Okay. So how do
no.
you tie that back to what we discussed about Baidu?
So regarding Baidu or BYD, they just lose money because they get money from the government. And this doesn't only happen in the cars, right? If you look at mobile phones with Huawei, they want
Okay.
to go to the market, they just lose money. That's it. And the
Okay.
party is paying for that, or
Okay,
the
thank
government.
you. So you're saying about the conversation on Baidu pricing a new vehicle at around $20,000 with a swappable LFP pack and 4-seater and 40 sensors, including 5 LiDARs. They're losing money and the government is financing that.
Exactly.
Okay. Omar, any additional thoughts on that?
China is an incredible place. It has many strengths over the US, and the US has many strengths over China. China has a lot of incredibly smart people, a lot of incredibly hardworking people. They have drive, they have an electronic supply chain that is second to none. I mean, places like Shenzhen, there is no other place like that in the world, where you need to find a screen for your device. You can find 50 different suppliers and you can go walk to their factory and go talk to them. On the other hand, US capital markets are far stronger. I think, the sort of financial stability, the rule of law, the software expertise are great advantages we have. Chip making, NVIDIA, that sort of build out of compute are advantages the US have. Ultimately, I do think probably Tesla's biggest challengers in autonomy will be Chinese companies in terms of dominating on a global scale. But I think really where the strength of China comes in is not necessarily in solving the software. I mean, Chinese companies are very strong on AI, but I think the strength of China in autonomy will really come from their manufacturing prowess and their electronics expertise. At the time when autonomy is solved, you can count on these Chinese companies to pump out millions of robotaxis and ship them around the world.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, Hustle Town, are you available so I've seen some positive feedback on the watch party idea. Hustleton, are you available on Wednesday evenings?
Yes, of course. I'd love to
Okay.
do watch parties on Wednesday.
Man, I love your positivity and your passion. You care so much about Tesla Live. I love it. Hustletown is always in X and always on live chat at the same time. He's always the first person to leave a comment below the video on YouTube after the live stream ends. And he was at the watch party before. He's active in DM groups with ideas. Just love the positivity. Do you mind if I call it H-Town? H-Town or Hustletown?
H-Town sounds wonderful. I like it.
I love it. All right. Uzi, are you available on Wednesdays? And Omar, Omar, Omar does so much for the space too. I don't want to add one more thing to your schedule, but you're welcome to obviously hop in whenever you want. All right. Let's see what else we got. Oh, let's talk about Tesla Semi. Tesla Semi got some really good commentary from DHL. Omar, did you see that article yesterday and the press release that they put out?
No, I didn't see that. I did see Elon's tweet today that Tesla Semi is going to be available worldwide, which I thought was super exciting.
Oh, interesting. I did not see that. So there you go.
Yeah.
We just taught each other. Not the other one didn't know. So when did he give a timeline? 2 weeks or?
No timeline. Just it's going to be available globally. They did have the Semi visiting the Berlin factory today, so that was kind of what he quote tweeted under that. I'm not sure if they're going to make any design changes to bring it to the European market, where sort of cab over designs are more popular, but we'll have to see what they do. I think it's a really crucial product, and it is something that they need to scale globally. We've talked about how it could be a really crucial piece of their autonomous network.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And also for their own internal logistics and distribution.
Yeah. And Needy Tortellini in YouTube live chat says Tesla Semi was in Germany today. So Tesla Semi was in Germany today. Let me read this DHL article. There seems to be some good information in here. I think it'd be a good use of our time. So this is from DHL.com. The title is called Creating a More Sustainable Fleet. Could this electric semi-truck be a game changer? At DHL, we're committed to reducing emissions in logistics. Improving the sustainability of our fleet is a big part of that. We are now partnering with electromobility giant Tesla in the United States, working together toward a new era of long-haul trucking, 18 wheels at a time. EVs are central to reducing greenhouse gas emissions in logistics. EV technology for automobiles is now mainstream, and small cargo e-trucks are common in many urban areas. But electrifying long-haul tractor-trailer trucks or semis is a much bigger challenge. Tesla is demonstrating that it can be done. Wow, this is awesome. We've been committed to improving the sustainability of our fleet for years as part of our broader goal to be green logistics of choice. That's why we're excited to see DHL Supply Chain USA partner with Tesla to test the promise and potential of the Tesla Semi. It's a beast, in quotations. Wow, this is a great vote of confidence by DHL. This is amazing. It's a beast. That's how Tesla described its cutting-edge electric truck, the Tesla Semi. Beyond its expected competitive pricing, superior safety specs, and jaw-dropping range of 500 miles, its 3 motors deliver triple the power of a conventional diesel Semi and a badass acceleration of 0 to 60 miles per hour in 20 seconds. What's not to love? Over a 2 weeks, so this is the kind of meat of the article here, okay? Over a 2-week trial period this summer, DHL Supply Chain USA took a thorough look under the hood of the Tesla Semi, integrating the e-truck into 3,000 miles of normal operations out of Livermore, California. The trial including one long haul of 390 miles, fully loaded with a gross combined weight of 75,000 pounds, confirming the Tesla Semi's ability to carry typical DHL loads over a long distance on a single charge. Very good. During the trial vehicle averaged 1.72 kilowatt hours per mile, operating at speeds exceeding 50 miles per hour on average for over half of the time on the road. So 1.72 kilowatt hours per mile, so very efficient. DHL says, the result exceeded our expectations and even Tesla's own rating. This is amazing. What a great vote of confidence by DHL. DHL finishes with, our verdict, Tesla Semi is ready for prime time. Very good. Let's see. Oh, just hold on a second. Hold on one second. It says, let's see. Putting the Tesla Semi to the test allowed us to validate whether it could travel 500 miles with a fully loaded trailer and see what our performance drivers thought of the truck's performance. We were encouraged by how quickly they gained confidence with the vehicle and leveraged the Tesla's smart features to help improve performance, comfort, and the overall driver experience. Following the successful trial phase, DHL Supply Chain USA is now carefully planning how we could best integrate these electric trucks into our network as Tesla gears up for large-scale production of the Semi in 2026. And then there's some quotes in there from drivers as well. Very good. Go ahead, Omar.
Yeah, it hasn't been getting as much press as some of their other vehicles, but the Semi team has been working very hard for years, working closely with customers who live and breathe this stuff. Customers like Pepsi, customers like Frito-Lay, customers like, Costco, all kinds of different customers. And they've really built a product that not only looks good on the surface, but actually works for these people's workloads, the things they actually need to do. They've been using it internally as well to ship batteries between Fremont and Giga Nevada. So, I mean, just imagine you're a semi-truck driver. You spend all day in this thing. Hell, you may even live in this thing if you're doing a cross-country trip. Imagine having a Tesla versus having a diesel semi. What a relief that is. The drivers love it. It's a better experience. The companies love it. They look good. They're green. They're saving money. Low fuel, low maintenance. This is going to be a really big product. And the US government right now is giving a tax credit of $40,000 per electric semi purchase.
Yeah, thank you, Omar. This is a big topic on so many fronts. I'm trying to find what Tesla said in the 2019 they unveiled, or 2019 unveiled. What was the efficiency figure they threw out there?
2 kilowatt hours per mile, or less than 2 kilowatt hours per mile. So they came in well under that.
Well under that, 1.72. That's amazing, 15%. And remember when Bill Gates said it can't be done?
Yep, he was wrong.
It was so wrong. That's amazing. That's amazing. Edward, welcome.
Welcome. I just wanted to add one thing about the DHL. I think this is a bigger thing than people are going to realize. This is going to put a lot of pressure on UPS and FedEx, because if DHL jumps ahead of this and gets in line and gets their trucks ahead of time, that could put a lot of heat on them. I know they're going to be more resistant to this concept, but I think it's a lot bigger than people think. It's kind of like the NACS, how everybody just kept following in line.
Yeah, it's a lot bigger than NACS, I would say, because Semi, by the way, Edward, did you welcome me to my own space?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. Semi is important for the mission. Very important for the mission. And it's also a major step up from the diesel trucks on fuel efficiency, on safety, obviously autonomy, and maintenance, repairs. I mean, these trucks require tens of thousands of dollars of maintenance every year. So, and the fuel cost would be even more than that. So I think this Tesla Semi is like a 3-year payback period versus the diesel trucks. So it's going to be very rapid. Once they start producing these things, it's going to be very rapid turnover of the fleet, I think, in the US. I don't know what other speakers think, but I think there are about 1 million semis on the roads today. Omar, is that right? Or Edward?
Yeah, I think the issue obviously they had before was the battery constraint. So, I mean, they had that issue with the battery. So I think this whole, economy going into the auto problem that we've had over the last couple of years is actually not a bad thing for them ramping up the semi. And I think that's helped them get the semi kind of going a little quicker, and getting those batteries produced for this vehicle. That's all they need. The vehicle's been ready for years.
Okay, good. Any other comments on Tesla Semi? I think we did a great job. Thank you, Edward, for chiming in. Edward, is this a topic that you follow very closely, or do you have any experience in the field?
Actually, I've been following it a little bit more because I've been driving around, believe it or not, a lot of truck drivers. And it's because they don't drive their semi home. So I've been driving them around FSD and everything like that. And we've been talking about the trucking industry and the features that they have on the vehicles. So I've been getting a little bit more into that side of it and asking them if they've been in the Teslas or if they've seen them. And they've heard about the technology, but they have not personally been driving them in North Carolina.
Okay, good. Good. Thank you very much, Edward. Good to have you on the board again. We're going to spend another 5 minutes on this, and then we're going to wrap up, move on to the next topic, which is Tesla's Q3 forecast. Q3 is about to come out, and then we have other topics as well, like the Uber CEO's comments about Elon and the Cybercab and EU versus China tariff war. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to keep it moving. 5 more minutes on this topic. Neil?
Yeah, so really quick, I do have some experience in the freight industry, and one of the limiting factors with long-haul drivers is the electronic logging device, the ELD limitation, which it's a set of standards that says every 8 hours, you need to take a 30-minute break. I think every 11 hours, you have to rest 10. There's a set of requirements for long-haul drivers. So really, when you think about the Tesla Semi, it just has to beat the human, right? As long as we have people driving this, there are laws and limitations on long-haul drivers. As long as your battery's better than that, you're good. So that's, I think, the real limitation.
Looks like Edward agrees. Thank you, Neil, for your comment. And Brian McCormack has a really good point in the replies as well. He says, no design changes needed for Tesla Semi in Europe. And earlier, Needed Tortellini said in YouTube live chat, Tesla Semi was in Germany today. And Elon's tweeting that Tesla Semi is going to be a global product. So this is becoming front and center. Semi has been in the back burner for years due to the battery limit that, as Edward mentioned, 4680s and other battery limits have been crippling Tesla's or limiting Tesla's growth rate in the last 5 years. And we're about to see one of the best products that Tesla has ever designed and built is going to be most impactful into its mission, come to market soon in volume. So I'm very excited for Tesla Semi. All right, we're going to switch topics now. But before that, I'm going to give a shout out to our partners, sponsors, and in the meantime, I would really like folks in X. If you're finding value here, please head over to the YouTube through the link at the top of our screens and give it a like. And let me know which number of like you are in YouTube live chat. That also drives engagement and pushes the YouTube channel out to new viewers. This is the limiting factor right now on Tesla Live's growth rate. So right now we have 125. I would like that number to be 200 by the time I finish this audio ad read. And then Omar, I'm going to ask you a question after that. So it's 30-second break for everyone to do that on X. Head over to YouTube and hit that like button. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. Are you looking to elevate your Tesla driving experience? Look no further than Joa. They offer a wide range of high-quality accessories designed specifically for Tesla owners who demand the best. Use promo code TSLA Live at checkout to receive a special discount on your next purchase. And pay more. Are you looking to upgrade your tech? Want to turn your old devices into cash? With over 100 stores nationwide, Pay More makes it easy and secure. They believe that the best technology doesn't have to come at the cost of our planet or your wallet. Thank you, Pay More and Joa, for supporting Tesla Live and for making technology accessible and sustainable for everybody. All right, let's see what the like count is at now. 136. All right, we're going to take a break until that gets to 200. So I need everyone. We're going to pause for about 30 seconds because sometimes people don't want to miss the discussion, so they don't do it. We're going to take a 30-second break for folks to do that. We're gonna continue once that figure gets to 200, guys. Okay. Omar, someone asked in the YouTube live chat, anyone know the expected 2025 supply for the semi and the sale price? What's the sale price of the semi?
I think they said like $200,000.
200K. Okay. And what's the expected supply for 2025?
I think I heard 50,000 units at scale, so maybe that's the 2026 number.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe 50,000 2026. And Luke says that figure, the 200K figures before inflation, which is true. I mean, a lot of prices went up by 25% in the last couple of years here. So, 25% of 200,000 is 50,000. So maybe it'll be more like 250, right?
Or more. I mean, we're talking about an
Yeah.
800 kilowatt hour battery.
Yeah. And also, like this product saves hundreds of thousands of dollars for owners. So I would be shocked if they bring it at only 200,000, 250,000, at least for the first few of them. So maybe it'll be just like Cybertruck that started a little higher than expected and then is now coming down to $80,000. So maybe it'll start out a few $100,000 first. We'll see. I see we have a new speaker, Tech Greg. You may unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yeah, so I run a small trucking company, run about 7 trucks. And as much as I'd love to participate in something what Tesla offers, small companies like mine go to different pickup centers and delivery centers every day. We don't know exactly where we're going every day, depending on where the customer wants. And there's just no charging facility. I don't see this going on beyond distribution centers that have charging on either end for now. And like what the previous guy was saying about 11 hours, that's true. Well, a driver can only last about 11 hours. So as long as they can charge after that 11 hours, it's fine. But until there's charging infrastructure, I don't see it going beyond companies like Pepsi and DHL and all these places that have fixed routes and distribution centers where they know where they're going every day. That's my take on it for now.
Okay. Omar, what do you think about that? That Tesla Semi growth is going to be limited by megawatt charger distribution?
In part, you do need some of those chargers to be built. But for the use cases that they're highlighting so far, for example, with PepsiCo and Frito-Lay, they're not using any public charging. They actually just installed charging at their warehouse, right? And they charge while they're unloading or loading. So there's different use cases. People use trucks for different things. Some people are just using the trucks to move between their distribution centers. If you're willing to invest in building a charger at your distribution center, no problem. If you want to do cross-country trucking, you can't do that with the semi. Yeah, well, actually, you can, because you could go plug into a supercharger, but it's not exactly a practical experience. Really, you need stations built out for the semi. So that's going to take time, and it is actually kind of complicated, especially when you look at so if I were in the middle of nowhere, let's say the middle of Montana or something, and I want to have a station that can charge 20 electric semis or 50 electric semis, that's like the power consumption of a small town to fast charge dozens of electric semis at the same time. So where do we get the transmission infrastructure, the interconnection that we need to happen to the grid? There's probably a regulatory overhaul that's needed to make that happen. So that's a little bit concerning, but just like with the supercharger network, it'll be built out naturally over time. For a lot of use cases where you're going between known locations, it already works great even without any public charging.
Yeah, I
You have
agree.
to. Sorry, I know sometimes people are not. They're not familiar with the rules of the space. You have to stay on mute and raise your hand, Tech Greg. And a lot of times people look at like Omar gets to talk so much. Why don't I get to talk so much? Are you serious? Omar has been here from the beginning. He's been out on exporting Tesla for many years. He's done more for Tesla and Tesla Live in his toenail than you've done in your entire life. Okay. So yes, there's going to be a double standard. Especially new speakers have to stay on mute and raise their hand. Also, I think there's on megawatt chargers, I think the charging system for the Tesla Semi is going to be easier in some respects to build because, like Omar mentioned, companies can build them in their warehouses, and you don't really need like the permit process for that because private property is probably going to be much easier than putting up a supercharger in a residential area. And also, you don't need that many. You just have to kind of put them on the highways.
Industrial locations that are having semi trucks coming in and out tend to have a lot of electricity already for whatever they're doing there.
Yeah. Okay, I don't see Tech Greg's hand up, so we're going to move on. Q3 earnings are coming up. Does anyone on the board have any specific expectations? Uzi, what do you expect, generally speaking, for Q3 earnings?
Not much, honestly. More of the same. Let's just see if deliveries are higher considering it's the holidays.
No, Q3 earnings announcement.
Oh, my bad.
So, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, honestly, it's just let's look at energy, see if the gross margins improved. Other than that, deliveries. We already know that, right? So.
Okay. Thank you. Edward, do you follow earnings announcement? I mean, so it's a little difficult conversation to have because I don't think many people follow quarterly revenue and margin assumptions closely.
Yeah, I'm on the same opinion there that it's just more of the same. Everything's status quo. I don't think there's not going to be anything to shake up anything. I don't think either way. I think the market's probably going to pin it down and push it down like they usually do after earnings. But it's Q4 that probably does make a bigger impact on what's going to happen.
Okay, if anyone in the audience has Q3 assumptions or they follow the topic closely, you're welcome to request to speak and share your thoughts on your revenue, margin expectations, as well as any commentary that you might expect from Tesla management that you'd like to see, any questions you'd like them to answer. That would be very helpful for the discussion. Andy Land in YouTube Live Chat says, Q3, it would be good to hear FSD take rates. Omar, do you think Tesla will share FSD take rates in the Q3 earnings call or earnings letter?
They'll share it if it's good, so probably not.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think take rate is rising, but it's not necessarily skyrocketing right now. I think that'll be a while, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can see they brought back the FSD transfer option. So, they probably wouldn't do that if people were buying FSD. Clearly this is kind of a holdup for people to upgrade to a new vehicle. You're also seeing them introduce the sort of 0% APR if you buy FSD, which is, I think, going to juice FSD purchase sales, but it's not people buying because they want FSD. They're really getting a discount essentially on the vehicle. So, I think it's not really that surprising given nag-free FSD was just released at the end of Q3. So really just in Q4 we've seen this new software. I think it's going to take time for people to be aware. Meanwhile, the core auto business is still continuing to struggle. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw further sequential margin contraction even from the previous quarter. You're seeing a heavy amount of incentives across the industry, including at Tesla. You're seeing a bigger mix towards China, and sales are not as good in North America or Europe. So probably we're going to see a core business that is not expanding earnings still, and I'm not really sure what's going to change that. It seems like they're more focused on just trying to get volume to an acceptable level, including in Q4, rather than trying to expand margin.
Okay, Uzi.
Yeah, I agree with the analysis as usual. I mean, he is a genius. I will say China, like Tesla seems to be doing really well with China, especially considering the macro situation. And, there's this longstanding argument that, as a car company, macro conditions are more sensitive to Tesla. But then you see, I mean, I could read some numbers, but Tesla is outperforming their peers at a high level in China. I'd also put forth that once we get to unsupervised, that's when the FSD take rate will increase. I don't know if unsupervised exactly means L4, but that's where we'll see that.
Hey, Omar.
One bright spot is Cybertruck sales. Cybertruck is now outselling every other electric vehicle that's not a Tesla in the United States. So only cars that are outselling it are the Model 3 and Y. It's now even outselling the Ford Mustang Mach-E, which is the best-selling EV that's not from Tesla. So everyone who said this was going to be a niche vehicle, it's not exactly niche. This is a pretty the top 3 best-selling EVs are Teslas. It's outselling Rivian's entire business. Unfortunately, this is another thing that's going to make the earnings even worse because they are still losing money on every Cybertruck. So they say they're going to get to margin neutral in Q4. That'll be a good milestone if they can achieve it. But great to see Cybertruck selling so well and being a hit. But also that's going to be another headwind for the quarter.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do a preview on YouTube. We'll do either a live or maybe a video. I'm not sure yet. For a Q3 preview event, so you can access that. You can access that through the link at the top of our screens. And then we'll also do a watch party for the Q3 earnings as well, just like we did last quarter. And that really resonated with people. So you can access that through the link at the top of our screens again. All right. Let's see, Dallas. Welcome.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Anything specific to talk about on your end?
No, I saw something I kind of wanted to FUD check if that's possible. I saw a tweet that was saying Lucid outsold the Model S. Is that real?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Model S sales are very low, and Lucid kind of benefits from the fact that they don't have a lower price option like the Model 3. So if you want a Lucid, you kind of go with that. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, but it's not material to
No.
Tesla
I mean,
investors right now.
Lucid did not outsell the Model S. If you look at global sales, it's I think probably at least 6,000 or 7,000 for the Model S or Model X. I think Lucid did 1,900. So this is just Lucid investors trying to grasp onto something. And of course, they're not saying, well, Tesla has a new vehicle called the Cybertruck, which they just launched and is already running circles around the Lucid Air, selling 7 times what the Lucid Air is selling at a higher average selling price, and they haven't even ramped it yet. So we'll let Lucid fans have it if they want to say, maybe in some market, maybe in some areas of the U.S. or something, they're seeing more registrations. But I mean, this is a company that is not outselling Tesla at any level.
Well, the 7,000 figure you mentioned includes Model X, right? Lucid doesn't have a Model X equivalent.
That's true, but also the main difference is that it's global, whereas Lucid is selling into fewer countries. So you can kind of cherry pick sometimes, especially now with Model S and X sales at lower levels, and say, okay, well, in this market, but what you're missing is that they're actually exporting these cars all around the world and that there are sales in other countries as well.
I mean, the other thing I would point out is that Lucid is unprofitable, negative contribution margin. So it's not really apples to apples comparison. They're dumping these products at a very low price. So
yeah, absolutely. Especially this
yeah.
quarter. They've been discounting heavily.
Exactly. I mean, Lucid Air is like $60,000, $70,000 car. So it's not really comparable to Model S, but it's a near-term
It's not
event.
sustainable when one company's making money on the product and the other company's losing money on the product. Eventually,
Exactly.
the prices have to reset to a level where the sales are not going to be that level.
Exactly. And the same goes for R1T versus Cybertruck too. Edward.
You guys effectively step on my statements almost every time. I was just going to say, how much are they losing for every single vehicle? I mean, if they're losing any money for every single vehicle and Tesla Model S is making money on every single vehicle, what's the point of even having the argument of how many they sell?
Honestly, these guys are doing so badly, we don't even need to kick them while they're down. Let's all applaud for them. Good job, guys. Sales are great. Keep going.
What do you think the future of Lucid is like in the next few months, few quarters, in the next year, let's say? Do you think they're going to be taken private? Do you think Saudi is going to pump money into it and dilute the shareholders? Or do you think they're going to file for bankruptcy?
Wow. I mean, that's an interesting question. I think as long as the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia is not bored with it, they will continue to exist. He is making them open up an EV factory in Saudi Arabia, which is kind of just like, why? But they could outlast Rivian, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. Uzi?
Yeah, one thing I learned from, I think it was like How to Invest, was a story about how this guy was shorting a Chinese ship dockers, which is supported by the government, and he lost a lot of money. And the moral of the story was that when you bet against a nation state, which is more than willing to lose money, um, they will fund it indefinitely as long as it's a matter of national security. I don't know if it's national security in this case, but what I do see is that they're trying to diversify. Saudi Arabia is trying to diversify its economy and build a supply chain within Saudi Arabia. It's kind of a vicious cycle when you don't really have the suppliers and then production as well. So as long as oil stays high enough, which I think we might want to get to, I think Saudi Arabia is more than fine to lose hundreds of millions, even more on Lucid, as long as it meets their national security goals.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia makes $1 billion a day. Hundreds of millions of dollars or even billions of dollars per year is nothing to them, especially if it means slowing down Tesla's growth. Honestly, that's my view. I know others don't share that view, but I think Saudi Arabia's primary goal here by funding Lucid is to slow down Tesla. And one can make the argument that it actually is a smart way of going about it if you put yourself in their shoes, because Tesla needs to spend tens of billions of dollars buying chips to develop FSD into unsupervised and then Robotaxi service. And any money, Tesla used to make billions of dollars selling Model S and Model X, but that's not the case anymore. But let's go to Omar.
Yeah, let me just read you some stats from Saudi Aramco's most recent quarterly earnings. Revenue, $470 billion. This is for one quarter. So we're talking about $2 trillion in revenue. Net income, $106 billion. They're bringing in $106 billion in profit every quarter, okay? $400 billion a year. When Lucid needs $2 billion to run, it's a rounding error for them. So ironically, when will Lucid die? When the oil industry suffers. When the oil industry suffers and they no longer have, they're no longer flush with cash, that's when Lucid either needs to become profitable or, they're not able to get that funding.
Yeah, and those figures are with low oil prices. Oil prices have plunged. They're not at the triple-digit levels that they were a few years ago anymore. So, yeah, it's an interesting kind of. There are a lot of moving parts here. It's not a very easy analysis when it comes to Lucid. I think Rivian has been more clear cut. But yeah, interesting topic, Omar.
One more really quick comment on why Saudi Aramco is so profitable. They can extract a barrel of oil from the ground for about $2 a barrel. They just have a setup there in Saudi Arabia where the oil is just right there under the ground, and it's really easy to get. And there's a lot of it. So they have, I think, one of the cheapest costs of oil production in the world. They, have a variety of products, and no matter what the price of oil is, even at a very low oil price, their price of extraction is below that.
Exactly. But on top of that, you kind of have to consider their state budget needs oil prices at a higher level, obviously. So
yeah, they don't tax people. It's all just oil. And as a matter of fact, everyone just gets oil that's practically free gas, really cheap gas. So, since the monarchy there, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is really dependent on these oil prices itself. So they take this very seriously.
yeah, we live in interesting times. The U.S. now is a net exporter of energy, and so high oil prices, surging oil prices, doesn't impact U.S. as much as it used to in previous decades. It still does to a certain extent because I think the type of oil imported is a little different than the type of oil exported. So you may still need those imports in the near term. But the fact that Tesla is now producing EVs that are superior to ICE alternatives at a cheaper price, selling them at a cheaper price, and now you have used Teslas, a used Model 3 going for less than $10,000, and it's only going to decline with the next gen models coming online soon. It's a very different type of environment than it was even 10 years ago, let alone 20 years ago. So it's going to be interesting to see how the oil market shapes up in the coming years. And the fact that with all these wars going on around the world, the oil price has failed to increase above $70 per barrel price in sustainable fashion, I think speaks volumes too. So a lot to unpack there. Lucid company analysis is not very straightforward. All right. Any other comments on that? Otherwise, one topic I really want to, man, we have 40 minutes to talk. One topic I want to get Omar's thoughts on is SpaceX versus Boeing. SpaceX is, before we switch topics, let's look at this like count. Come on, guys. Come on, let's go. We are at 182. What is going on? We're slacking today. We have more than 300 people in X Space. If you're enjoying this discussion, please, this is a free and open, like it only takes 2 seconds and it really helps us out a lot. So please go to the top of your screens, click through to that YouTube link, go to YouTube channel, hit like and subscribe. This is the limited factor right now on Tesla Live's growth. All right. The more people, we brought in 9,000 unique viewers on YouTube channel in the last 28 days. And most of that is in the last 2 weeks. So we're doing really well, but we need your help to keep pushing forward. All right. So we're going to take a 30-second break for everyone to do that. Dallas is going to count down from 30 for us in those 30 seconds.
30, 29, 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22,
Come on, guys. Put
21,
Dallas out of his misery. Put
20.
Dallas out of his misery. Let's
You
go.
want me to
Let's
do
get
the
to,
whole thing?
yeah.
19,
We're like slacking on like
18,
count.
17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Sounds like I'm counting down to my kid. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Smash that like button.
Thank you, Dallas. I appreciate that. We are now at 195. And now Bradford is going to give you a pep talk on why you should go to YouTube and hit that like button. Bradford, let's hear your call to action for people.
So if you like the new and improved Yaman Tazdever, the value analyst who is sharing diverse opinions and hardcore deep research with statistical backing, if you like that and want more of that, hit that like button. But more importantly, you want to subscribe because that's creating a ceiling right now, the number of subscribers.
Wow, that's amazing. We just shot up to 1,000 likes. We didn't, but I think we're on the way there. Bradford, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Welcome to the speak board again. We had a great discussion. I don't know if you heard it about Tesla Semi earlier. Highly recommend people to go back and watch that part. I think Tesla Semi is going to be a material part of Tesla's financials in 2025, 2026, and then beyond. Bradford, we talked yesterday about Q3 expectations a little bit. Maybe Matt Smith can join us too one day in the coming days, and we can have a more detailed discussion on Q3 expectations. Anything to add to yesterday's discussion? Any specifics?
Yeah, I'll just reiterate that essentially Tesla China was forced to sell many more Model 3s locally to China at lower prices than what they're able to capture in Europe, selling to Europe. So there was that whole back and forth around the additional 9.8% or whatever it is tariff in Europe. And that was being reviewed during the quarter. Essentially, Tesla had to immediately redirect a lot of those Model 3 sales to China. I think that'll be a drag for them margin wise. So like, all else equal, if you look at the different quarters, versus Q2, I think that'll be a drag. So I don't expect a sudden uptick. And you also had a decline in Megapack sales. So that's kind of where we're at. I wouldn't be surprised by a decline in gross margins. I'd be open to hearing, why people think gross margins would be better. I stay open-minded.
Yeah, I mean, the one positive in the quarter is that obviously the raw material price have been declining. But I do think that Q3 will see a lower gross margin from Q2. But I think it might be the bottom. Q4 so far seems to be doing well on prices, interestingly. And I think FSD is becoming popular with people. So the take rate is increasing, not to material levels right now, but I think it's going to start driving some sales.
Maybe the positive, like for the stock, is that expectations should be pretty low.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think Q4 will benefit from higher deliveries of the Cybertruck too. And the rates are hopefully starting to come down a little bit. So there's some tailwind in Q4, but we'll see. It's a seasonally weak quarter. Bradford, is there anything you want to talk about?
Well, I'm just thinking about how with FSD, they've been focused on improving hardware 3, how it does with hardware 3, and they finally got it for Cybertruck. We saw end to end on highway with Cybertruck. I've used it extensively, and it does great around semis now. So like it's not like the highway is not no longer the most irritating part of driving FSD. It's great now. So I'm curious when Tesla is going to do another free trial of FSD, and I'm hoping it's maybe they'll do it annually. Worst case, where we see another free trial around March. They nailed what they said they were going to do as far as getting all that work done on FSD and AI in September, and getting it done by the end of September. So for now, I'm just choosing to believe them, and curious if we see like a version 13 or just a much improved version this month. So we're in October now. So we're still in a bit of a waiting pattern. One thing I just speculated with Matt about, and we're going to be pushing out a video by about 4 p.m. on the Rebellionaire channel on YouTube, is I think the keynote for the We Robot event was cut short because of how late it started. It was extremely important that the attendees be able to ride the Robotaxi and to interact with Tesla Bot. So I think it was cut short. So I'm wondering if there's more information that Tesla ultimately wanted to share, but was maybe less high level and more detailed. So were they going to share data about, a path towards disengagements, where disengagements got to a low point where it's unsupervised? Were they going to show more with the app? Is Tesla going to share videos with this about this with us in the coming weeks? Yeah, I would love to
Okay,
see.
let me ask Omar about that, because this came out a couple of times. Omar wasn't here yesterday. Omar, there's an idea out there that maybe Tesla cut the presentation short because of the late start to the event, because of, unfortunately, one individual had to be helped by medical professionals. What do you think about that theory? Do you think we're going to hear more that Tesla was supposed to announce on the earnings call, maybe?
It's possible. I mean, I did think they have to rush through it a little bit. The main event wasn't the presentation; it was actually people riding in the rides and interacting with the robot. And the line for that ride was around the block, as you can imagine. Everyone wanted to ride in a driverless Tesla for the first time, so people were waiting for a long time. So I do think they had to cut it short a little bit, or kind of hurry through it to get to the main course, which was the actual party itself. But, it's not like they can't instantly get out any other details. They don't want to get out on the earnings call or through an Elon tweet or something else.
Thank you. Uzi?
Yeah, I'm along the lines of, Elon said let's not get nuanced when asked about Harbor 3. So I don't think they provide any details or any data at all. I do think Bradford makes a great point about the app. I guess they already showed it, but it would have been great to make the presentation more coherent. So there is a possibility, and I'm pretty sure the presentation was about 15 minutes. So I'm not sure if the edit had pauses cut out, but there is a possibility that they cut out what's unnecessary. I highly doubt it, though.
Yeah. Dallas, did you have anything to add? And then Vitor.
No, you mentioned SpaceX earlier. I was going to touch on that, but
Yeah,
not on this topic.
we'll get to SpaceX in a second. Vitor?
Yes, I have a question, because we've been following these things for years already, and I think that we are at a point that's getting seriously. And live in Portugal, and that's in Europe. Regulations are a shit. And I'm not thinking about the car. I'm thinking about buying a house. And I'm starting to thinking about buying a house in a big city where traffic is a shit, or buy a house 30 minutes away or 1 hour away from commuting. So this is FSD is really starting to get into the decision of not buying a car, but about buying real estate. You know, and my question for you is, for Omar, that's been there, is this thing for real? And because you can think about not now, but in 5 years, real estate is a long-term investment. And do you think it's going to have a very big impact on cars and also on real estate? That's my question. Thank you.
The rise of autonomous vehicles and autonomous robots is going to change everything. Certainly, real estate, certainly where people choose to live, certainly what people choose to spend their money on if they don't need to buy a car. Absolutely. I think all of these things, the very layout of our cities. I mean, that was one of my favorite parts of the slide where Elon said, well, imagine when we get all these parking lots back because we don't need them. The cars can just drive around or can go drive further away to an underground parking lot somewhere else. What are we going to do? We could build parks there. We could build housing there. Our cities are going to look very different. Our communities are going to look very different. It's going to be a transformation like what happened to the world with computers or the internet or the smartphone, I think.
Thank you, Omar. All right. Any other comments on Q3 financials or the event? Otherwise, we're going to switch to SpaceX versus Boeing. All right. SpaceX obviously achieved an incredible milestone. Positive news, positive headlines everywhere, I think, except for like a one sentence on New York Times or something. But I want to understand, Omar, if you could please elaborate on, if you could please discuss the differences between SpaceX and Boeing and why the two companies are facing such starkly different features. Just like Tesla is facing a very positive feature as opposed to Lucid/Rivian, SpaceX is facing a very positive feature as opposed to Boeing. Maybe highlight a couple of key points that are very different between the two companies first.
Man, I mean, you could write a book about this. And I was just driving, to LAX the other day. And as I was driving by LAX, I saw Boeing's offices there, right by LAX and El Segundo, just a stone's throw away from SpaceX's headquarters in Hawthorne. So they're literally neighbors, Boeing Space and SpaceX. They've got a lot of the same engineers. What's the difference? The difference, I think, is management and culture. Boeing was once a great engineering-led company where engineers led the company and they built great products that power the world today, your Boeing planes of the world. But then they had this merger with McDonnell Douglas and the managers kind of took over, and that was the beginning of the end for a once great American company. And hopefully they can kind of get that back. But I'm not seeing it happen, certainly not with the management today. When you've got a manager like Elon, first off, across all his companies, he gets out of the engineer's way. And, I think he had a tweet about this today. He said, most companies, they're not trying to hurt the engineers, but they get so bogged down in management that they end up not really producing anything because their manager's telling them this or their manager's telling them that. And Elon at SpaceX, at Tesla, at all his companies, he just lets the engineers do what they want and he empowers great engineers. He understands things well enough to let them just do what they need to do. And people say, oh, it wasn't Elon, it was his engineers. Well, take those same engineers, put them at a different company under different management, and watch how much they're able to get done. Watch how much management lets them get done. So I shared a graphic where you can see on an exponential scale the cost to launch a kilogram of mass to orbit. And it was not falling very rapidly. And Elon said, look, well, we need this to fall very rapidly to get to Mars. We need a 10,000x improvement. And you just look at when SpaceX got in, the cost started falling rapidly. innovations like reusability brought the cost down massively. And nobody was even thinking about that. Nobody was thinking about how do we make launches cheaper. As a matter of fact, the way NASA would do their payments at the time would be based on hours worked. So they were actually incentivized to be slow and take extra time and have delays because then they would get paid more, right? And SpaceX said, hey, forget about that. Don't pay us to make the rocket. We're going to make the rocket. You buy the launch from us, and we're going to drive down the cost for you. So really, management, a focus on engineering, empowering the engineers to do what they want to do, and a focus on driving down costs, not overcharging the government, but actually driving down costs consistently. It's what has enabled this. And I mean, Starship getting to orbit, having a vehicle like Starship, the biggest rocket ever, a fully reusable rocket, it's going to enable launching larger Starlink satellites that are going to enable gigabit internet speeds anywhere on Earth. Gigabit internet anywhere on Earth. You can be on the top of Mount Everest and download a file at a gigabit per second down. That's what this is going to enable. I mean, this is going to be another step change in terms of lowering the cost to get to space. And the implications are huge.
Exactly. And Omar started out his comments with saying there could be a book written about this, but there is one, right? It is called Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. You can read that book to understand the differences between SpaceX and Boeing. Boeing is today facing a slew of quality issues, plane delays, union strikes. They just had to raise a ton of money. I don't think it's going to be enough, but it's also very important to the US government and the United States in terms of number of people that it employs and manufacturing capacity as well. So I'm curious. I think this is going to be a topic that we explore quite a bit. And at the same time, I'm going to go to Bradford in a second. But at the same time, once we reach 1,000 likes per episode for Tesla Live, once we reach 1,000 likes per episode, this space becomes contribution margin positive. Okay, a milestone that Rivian never achieved. Once we become contribution margin positive, we can then expand the episode numbers. We can introduce episodes at different times. Like for example, on Mondays, we have a AI amateur space that a lot of people in the space join and share general AI news and best practices that really benefits me and Tesla Live discussions later on as well. On Wednesdays, we're going to do watch parties for Tesla events. And we can also do SpaceX Live. We can even though it's a private company today, in the future, maybe there will be some IPO of Starlink or who knows, right? But I think there's a lot to learn from SpaceX as well. So we can do a SpaceX Live. But first, we have to get to contribution margin positive on Tesla Live. So if you want to speed that process along, go up to the top of your screens, click through to that YouTube link, and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're doing really well, but we need your help to accelerate that process, get to that so we can expand episodes to other topics. All right, Bradford, go ahead.
Yeah, speaking about evaluation, SpaceX, their valuation is over 200 billion now. This was before the catch. And also the Starship landed on where they wanted to land it. I don't think people know about this yet. So, they had the video camera there, but it landed extremely close to where they wanted, within like tens of meters. So they're getting very close to a point where that second stage rocket can land where they want. And Boeing, the valuation on Boeing is $100 billion now. They basically flipped with valuation versus Boeing. I think this is huge, but like the valuation for SpaceX is not financial advice. The next round is going to be much higher with how successful IFT-5 launch was and landing.
Thank you. Dallas?
Yeah, I'm actually just now leaving a big convention that I attended where a lot of the companies that we're referencing, I won't go into specifics, but a lot of them were there. And it's funny, this was kind of a major point of discussion throughout the week. all of the companies that Blue Origin, Virgin, SpaceX, were all attending. And it's funny, they refer to SpaceX now as the big guy. Like when they talk about, and they're like, "Oh, did you hear about the big guy's launch?" Like it's getting to the point to where there's a clear leader in the space, and everyone knows it, right? And it is just funny to hear the tenor of these companies talk about, oh yeah, we're about to launch too. Like it's getting
Yeah.
clear to people.
Yeah.
The spread gap is expansive.
Thank you. Your connection is a little poor, but we got the gist of it. Thank you very much. Yeah, SpaceX is the clear leader in this space, as Dallas mentioned, just like Tesla Supercharging Network is the clear leader in the charging. So this, and Tesla Semi is going to be the clear leader as well once it enters production and scales. I mean, Tesla has a lot of these, like FSD is the clear leader with vision only. Uzi.
Yeah, Ron Barron has a fund for SpaceX if anyone's interested. So you can, it's a mutual fund, so you can get invested. It's like 10%. I did want to say along the lines of Omar's point, um, management is definitely a problem for Boeing, and then I say supply chain management as compared to SpaceX. We did talk about Walter Isaacson's book. There is the anecdote of putting a part down, putting a responsibility of a person down to a part. Whereas with Boeing, you have labor issues, reacquiring Spirit Aerosystems with their aeronautics business. For the most part, Elon's innovated on the vertical integration side by using 3D printing and decreasing the amount of parts that they're using as well. So I think the supply chain is a quarter or half of the problem, as well as poor management on Boeing's side.
Thank you, Uzi. Omar, question for you. So a lot of times when we talk about Tesla versus Ford, Tesla versus GM, people say the US government cannot allow these companies to die. And I heard the same thing about Boeing today in an interview on CNBC. What do you think about that? Do you think these companies will be allowed to die? Or do you think the government will have to pump tens of billions of dollars into these companies in the future?
I would suggest that these people study economics. Maybe, Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell is a great book to start with. The government doesn't control who lives and dies, right? Why did the government let Blockbuster die? The government doesn't have infinite money to spend just keeping failing businesses alive. They are constrained. They have a multi-trillion-dollar deficit, right? This is money they have to get for taxes. If their financial condition is in jeopardy, then interest rates go up. It destabilizes the economy. So the government is not omnipotent. They can't just do anything they want, keep any company they want alive, even if that company is losing money. What happened during the financial crisis, where we essentially had a banking system collapse that led to a credit freeze that then hit other industries like auto. And they said, well, it wasn't really their fault that there was a banking system collapse. We're going to try and help them out. That was a situation that was unpopular at the time and is unlikely to be repeated again, in my opinion. It is possible someone could try, but some forces are too strong for even the government. When autonomy makes cars useless, even the government can't save you.
Thank you. Bradford, anything to add on that front?
Yeah, so I worry it's a bit naive. I like you, Omar. We've hung out, all that. It feels like if you give a politician $1 million, then you can get $100 million contract. If you give them 10 million, you can get $1 billion loan. I might be off with my numbers a little bit, but I worry like that the money in politics and the whole thing with Citizens United, where you basically allow corporations to pay politicians, calling it free speech. I worry that the presence of money is going to allow for Ford and GM to be bailed out, but I would love for these, if something's not competitive, that it should fail. And we see in Europe where they are not allowing competitiveness. They're over regulating. They're favoring certain companies, and they're beginning to second guess us. So on that side, I would agree with you, and I think you gave us some good context about the great financial crisis. It was not popular when it happened, the bailouts of the auto companies, and so maybe there would be a chance that it wouldn't happen in the future if there isn't something else that was triggered with it, some other excuse.
All right, and we have a related comment in YouTube live chat from Kevin King, who says, "Look at Amtrak, look at USPS. They can't keep entities that lose money alive by deficit spending."
Well, the USPS is part of the federal government. It's very unusual in US history for the federal government to take equity holdings in private enterprise. So, if you're hoping that these failing companies are going to be kept alive by the government, don't hang your hat on it. Could it happen? Sure. Is it more than a 5 to 10% chance? No.
Yeah, I mean, there needs to be alternative, right? When GM went bankrupt, there wasn't an alternative. They had to keep that company alive. But today, you have Tesla, you have SpaceX, and I think there's going to be more bankruptcies than people project in the next few years. Omar?
And also back then, Ford and GM were the only auto companies, Ford and GM and Chrysler. Today we have Tesla, we have Rivian, we have Lucid, we have even Volkswagen, Hyundai, others investing in plants in the US. Ford and GM may disappear, but the US auto industry isn't going anywhere.
Okay, good. Bradford, I think, had a hand up, and then Machine and Uzi.
Yeah. So, were you the one who coined the term Tesla killer cemetery, Yaman?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great term. We just had another company, another product join that cemetery, the Apple car. So I just want to also mention your Patreon. I'm a $25 a month member there. Like, if you're finding yourself on this space on a near daily basis or every other day basis, just really encourage people to join that tier.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think the Patreon summaries of these spaces are deeply underappreciated. I don't know if Bradford reads them every now and then, but it's a very quick, very good summary. It gets all the material points for long-term investors, and even the summary also throws in a couple of quotes, sporting quotes as well. I find them useful, honestly, for my purposes. To kind of remember what we discussed. Okay, we have 10-minute warning, 10-minute warning. Let's go to Machine, Uzi, and Narochetsky.
Do you have a question?
Q3 earnings in one or two sentences. What's your expectation? We're going to dive into Q3 tomorrow in the coming days as well. Go ahead.
Flat, disappointing.
Okay, with your usual positive, glass half full attitude, you are welcome in this space. I'm defending you on every platform, on X, on YouTube, in the comments, but you know your stuff. And as far as I'm alive, you're going to be a speaker on this board. I hope I don't put a target on my back. Uzi?
Yeah, going back to Boeing, I do think the government will bail them out. I mean, the Enola Gay, which dropped the atomic bomb, was made by Boeing. There's a long history there. The argument that there is competition is biased towards aerospace, not aeronautics. So it's biased towards rockets in the sky, not planes being built. And as a matter of national security, they're going to bail out Boeing. Omnibus is a European aeronautics provider. So there is no other option in the aeronautics space.
All right, Machine?
Yeah, I thank you for having my back in the defense against all these online attacks, coming from the left and the right. I mean, everywhere. Everyone's so upset about everything I say. And, it just shows how sensitive people are. I mean, can you imagine if someone says the Robotaxi van is not coming before 2026, that they go look up your personal information and challenge you to a fight? You have to be pretty sensitive.
Oh my God. Don't throw gasoline on the fire. That's pretty funny. Are you gonna? I actually got a question live chat. Are you going to live stream that fight? He left. Funny.
You must
Okay,
be
Nick.
preparing for the fight.
Nick.
Yeah, Yaman. So speaking of Boeing, I'm just driving right now past Boeing Field, one of their factories where people are out protesting. I have a bunch of good close friends up here in Seattle that work for Boeing, that are engineers, and yeah, they're not in a very good situation. You can look on their financials um, in that sense, but also these engineers are furloughed once a week, once 1 week out of each month right now because of the strike. It's not looking too good right now, but yeah, just driving past these strikers.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Maybe tomorrow, if you drive past again, you can give the mic to one of them, and then we can hear about it. But I'm always surprised that this company is still worth $100 billion. To be honest with you, their financials are in bad shape, and prospects on so many fronts are just in bad shape. Okay.
Yeah, I'll
ahead.
add this, and if the government bails them out, like equity holders are typically going to get wiped out.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Let's see, where else do I want to go here? Let's Rocheski, go ahead.
Hey, what's up, guys? You want me to go on the topic you replied on my post, or you want to keep it with the same topic? So I had just put a post up. Yaman replied on it, and I was at work. I used Photoshop to cut out the two vehicles on the slide deck, and it looks, I slid one of the vehicles over to the other side. It looks 100% like the exact vehicle. There is no difference of the image. It's the exact same image. So do y'all guys think that the next lower cost vehicle, whatever you call it, Model 2, is actually going to be the identical vehicle, but with a steering wheel?
Yeah,
that you'd
as
be
we
able to
mentioned,
purchase right away.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, if you say the phrase Model 2, you're banned from Tesla Live for the next 7 years. Omar's rules. Okay. Omar, what are we calling you instead?
Maybe the compact.
Compact. There you go. To be built on the same lines as Model 3 and Model Y. Coming soon.
I like
So
the
store near
Tesla
you.
Q. Tesla Q.
Yeah, and I think it's going to scale maybe throughout 2025 in volume in the second half of 2025, maybe, right, Omar?
That's what they said. I mean, honestly, it's kind of hard to believe for me, who's used to seeing Tesla vehicles years ahead of time, and we talk about it for years, and we're like 5 years older by the time it actually ships. If they actually come out with a new car and say, hey, you can buy this now, it's going to be like nothing we've ever seen before from Tesla. So honestly, I find it kind of hard to believe until I see it.
People are throwing out some ideas in YouTube live chat about what we can call it. Drew says, you can't call it Model Dos. Kevin says Model Dos. Next gen vehicles is safe. Hustle Town says H-Town. Nick, and then Kwai.
What about cyber car?
Yeah, cyber car. Interesting. You could call it that, right? Cyber cab, cyber car.
Well, one thing Elon has said in the past is they're done with model. Every car model is not going to be Tesla model, whatever. From now, they did the sexy, they made the joke there, but now it's Tesla Cybertruck, Tesla Cybercab, Tesla Robovan. Cut the model. It's cleaner.
All right. And you don't want to mess up the sexy cars. Why?
Oh, aloha, you guys. It's Taylor. Omar, what does Q stand for? I love that name.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a joke that originated with the Tesla Q short sellers. So we said, hey, why not call the next car the Tesla Q? But it's not really it's an okay name. It's not really a name that's going to make sense to anybody. It's more of an inside joke, but I would support that as the name.
You know what I like is I think of question everything. Maybe Q would be good because we can question why the other companies don't do better products.
You know what I like is the pictures that you post from Kauai. Follow Kauai for amazing pictures of Cybertruck on the beach. As I scroll through X, I'm like, man, wish I was there.
And support Yaman and Omar for everything they do and put 100% into it because they're awesome also.
Thank you. Okay, we have a couple minutes left. I want to get Omar's comment. We can dig into this more tomorrow. But Omar, Uber's CEO had some comments about Elon and competing with Elon and robotaxis. Any kind of initial thoughts on that?
Well, he said he wants to partner with Tesla. Of course he does. Tesla's not going to partner with him. And they are the number one in ride sharing. They're a great company. They support Teslas very well. They support EVs very well. I love Uber. But when Elon Musk is getting into your industry, you're going to be getting a lot less sleep.
Exactly. And back in the day, TK had similar comments. Remember in that talk show? Whose show was it? I forget. But he said, if Elon can produce 500,000, I'll buy every single one of them. Do you remember? It was like 10 years ago.
Absolutely, yeah. And Dara, I think, feels the same way. They're really trying to position themselves as the platform to come to for any autonomous vehicle.
Exactly. Tough luck. Tough luck. Elon's entering your industry. Better not sleep. All right. Bradford?
Yeah, Uber has something called Uber Freight that I think a lot of people don't know about. Essentially, it's where if you're a truck driver, it's like matching loads and routes. Uber has figured out the app. They've figured out the logistics. I think there's some value there from an Uber or a Lyft. I think Lyft is a more ideal partner because they're just valued far lower than Uber is. And I think they've learned a lot of the same lessons that Uber has. What do you think about partnering with Lyft, Omar?
We're out of time. But today, that was a good intro to tomorrow's discussion. We can talk about Tesla versus Uber, Lyft, bunch of options, whether to partner or compete in-house, etc. Different aspects, software, hardware. We can talk all about that tomorrow. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to leave the link at the top of our screens. If you could please, as you exit the space, go to that tweet at the top, click to the YouTube link, and hit that like button and subscribe on the YouTube channel. Just like you make it a habit when you come into the space, go to the top, hit that like button. Even if you have to listen, or if you want to listen on X, that's fine. Like, share, it really helps. Just like you check a code in, and you check out your code when you go to a restaurant. Let's make that a habit. Thank you very much, everybody. I'll chat with you all tomorrow. Take care.